I'm Elaine Sims. I'm on the campus of St. Catherine's College. We have started our new year. This is January 2015. We are in the Mother House today, or part of the campus also, but this is the old chapel. I have with me Sally Rios. Now, I have seen Sally a few times. She works at our Judicial Center.
Yes.
So when you go in and check your keys and your metal objects, you're right there, right?
Yes.
And then recently, when William Moyers was here, which I think there was an article in the paper, so some of our audience may know about it, she won an award. But let's start first with where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from the state of New Mexico.
Okay. And you came to Kentucky?
It'll be 9 years, November 2nd.
Okay, okay. So it was right after your son was born?
Yes, he was 2 years old. So imagine driving, the largest U-Haul you can think of, having a 12-year-old, a 2-year-old, and my mother.
Wow.
Driving from New Mexico down to Kentucky.
What was what did you come to Springfield? Where do you live now?
Well, I live here in Springfield.
Okay.
My husband passed away, and so I wanted to start a new life, and so my sister and my youngest brother live down here in Kentucky. My brother lives in E-Town, and my sister lives in Bardstown. So they said, move out here,
Yeah.
let the boys have family, and so.
So you got in that U-Haul. This is a
packed up.
movie. This is a movie. Wow. Drove across the country.
Yes, and that was.
Came into Springfield.
Yes. And
Did you have any idea where you were going to live or what you were going to do? Or
I didn't. I got a job at Marion Adjustment Center, which was the prison out by St. Mary's.
Yes.
And so I was staying with my sister in Bardstown for about 6 months, and one of the times that I was driving my mother so she could see where I work, my Bronco broke down on 555, and a state trooper pulled us over. Well, he went to go check on us, and he brought us over to Springfield Police Department, and they gave us hot cocoa and chocolate and all kinds of. I said, this is a place I would like to, live, and I found a place here, and I've been here since.
Wow. Wow. So how long have you worked at the Judicial Center?
5 years.
5 years.
Yes.
Okay. Well, has it been open that long?
Let's see. They opened in, I believe, March of 2009.
Okay.
And I started working in April.
I believe you. It's just time flies.
It does.
Yeah. So if any of our audience goes into the Judicial Center, chances are they're going to see you.
Yes.
You work full-time?
I work full-time. I'm the chief of security.
Okay.
So.
Well, congratulations. I didn't realize
Thank
that.
you. I was like, that was a surprise also. So I was like, oh.
So your 12-year-old now is
like
teenager out of the house, or?
No, he's with me. He's going to be 20 on Monday, which is wow.
February 2nd.
And we're trying to, because he's got special needs,
Okay.
so we're trying to find him a special school for him to go to.
Okay.
And I've got who was 2, now 10, he's at Washington Elementary School.
Okay, okay. And I think our audience would say, well, she works at the Judicial Center, so she's here in the criminal justice program.
Yes.
And our recent guest that just left went to law school. She was also here under that program.
Oh.
I know that you were a busy lady, and squeezing school in has to be difficult, but why did you decide to do that at this point in your life?
Well, I was pretty satisfied with what I was doing, but my 9-year-old, Matthew, decided, he's a really, really intense young man. He stopped me and asked me, Mom, what are you going to do with yourself when I'm gone? And so I had to stop and ask, what did you mean by that? And he's all like, that he's going to, graduate, go to college, and then go to the military. And he's all like, when I'm gone, what are you going to do? And he's like, I think you should go back to school. And so
this is your 9. This was when he was 9.
Yes. And I was like, well, okay. So I figured, well, I went and took the aptitude test just to see if I.
So that kind of made your mind start rolling.
Well,
and you thought, well, okay.
Well, I said, let's go. Well, I guess it's a possibility. And so, like I said, I came down here to take an aptitude test, and they told me that my scores were good enough, and why wasn't I in school to begin with? I was like, oh, I guess it is a possibility. And I think it's one of the best decisions I've made.
Wow.
So.
You work close with the Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In what way?
We work for them. They're responsible for making sure that the Judicial Center and anybody who goes in is protected. Okay. And so that is our duty. So basically, the Sheriff's Department is our boss.
So you did not work when we had court in the old courtroom?
No, I didn't.
Because there was no security. I mean, there was security, but I mean, like, you know, people say now with these new judicial centers, you know, how expensive they were, which they are, yes. Very elaborate, lots of office space, but also my husband being county attorney, so it's just so much safer. And everything's recorded that goes on in the courtroom.
Yes.
But I mean, before, the way our courtroom was set up, you couldn't do a security check on everyone that came in there. You just kind of drifted in and out during court. So it was nice with the intimacy as far as the bench, approaching the bench with the judge. That was different. And my husband said too, then you could talk and, you know, everything wasn't recorded. You just have to be so careful. But safety, I mean, it's so much safer there.
Yes, I believe after 9/11, that's when everything took effect, to be sure that, you know, most people are there just to take care of minimal things, and no one should have to walk in there and worry about, you know, are they going to be shot or, you know, real drastic measures just to go pay a ticket.
Yeah. Well, it's very secure, which is great, So you're here, you're working there. What are your hopes and your dreams after you get out? What do you think? Do you have a plan?
I would like to become a probation and parole officer.
Oh, okay.
And I know this sounds awful, but probably about when I'm 50, 55, I would like to become a foster parent.
Oh, really?
Yes.
How special.
And just do something along those lines.
How special. Is your mom still here?
Yes, she's with me.
Okay,
yes.
she's with you.
Yes.
So I'm sure she's been a big help through this whole process.
Yes,
you know, after school and so forth.
She watches the boys, and so.
Good. That makes it, you know. You always want to know where they are after
yes,
school. The older
definitely.
they get, the more you want to know.
Yes, yes.
When they're little, they usually don't get in too much trouble. So, and you also worked with the Head Start program in Lebanon?
Yes, I did.
Okay. You're very motivated.
I was like, thank you. I stopped working at Marion Adjustment Center when just disagreements that happened. So I was looking for a job, and they were hiring, and they're like, well, you don't have an educational background as far as it goes with college. I said, well, the worst thing that could happen is they could say no. So I went through, and during the initial interview, they asked me a couple questions, and so they asked me if I had any. And my question was, what kind of person would you like working for you? And they described someone responsible, honest, hardworking, and you know, they just kept on, and they were all like, why? And I said, because I'm that person. And I walked up, you know, I stood up and then I left, and I got called. And so I was like, oh. And I worked for them for almost 2.5 years, and then I got a call from Tommy Bartley out of the blue, and he asked if I was interested in working.
Really?
So
he knew about you.
At the Sheriff's Department. And
that's a good feeling.
And so I was like,
to be
wow.
sought out. How many people get that call?
Oh, I don't know. I was amazed.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Wow, you've got quite a story. Quite a story. Okay, so you're in the program now. How often? I'm sure people that think about doing exactly what you're doing. How many hours a week are you out here right now? How do you work your schedule out?
Okay, at the moment I'm taking 4 credit. I guess it's 12 credit hours. So that's 4 classes. I have 2 morning classes Tuesday and Thursday, and 2 night classes on Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
And so it seems to balance everything out. And
so you have Dr. Toder, who's wonderful. Who's wonderful. Brilliant.
And so
he's fun to interview. He always calls me Mrs. Sims. I thought, do that. Do you have to put aside a lot of time to study? I mean,
I
or
do.
You do.
I
Okay.
do.
Okay.
But I do that after, the boys are settled.
Sure.
Because it never fails. The minute you sit down, they know it.
Yeah.
And they're like,
It's
Mom.
like getting on the phone or trying to study.
Yes,
They're right
yes.
there.
So I wait until after 10, and then
Okay.
I do my studies.
Okay. So what are the classes you're taking right now?
Right now, I am taking community corrections with Professor Wheatley. I'm taking the trial with Professor Tingle, and Comp 1 with Professor Price, and then Comp 2 with Professor Aiken.
Comp is composition?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so,
Okay. Does it make sense to you why you take composition in criminal justice?
at first it didn't, but now, because of all the documentaries and all the paperwork
Exactly.
you have to do,
Exactly.
I mean, it'd be really awful to say, this dude went and did, you're going to have to write
Right.
something a little bit more.
Well, in any case, whether you're defending or prosecuting, if you don't have a good report,
And it
you don't
could
have a
be thrown-
chance.
Exactly.
Because you don't know the facts. That's so, I've heard that over and over. And I'm sure that's good for our audience to know, too.
And-
But, I mean, good
yeah.
reporting is so important.
And I love writing, so.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious you love writing, because the second time, well, I've seen you in town many times, but the second occasion I want to mention is that when William Moyers was here at St. Catherine's, that was back in November?
Yes.
And it was in the newspaper, and it was in the News and Views, but we've never really talked about how wonderful that whole experience was. William Moyers is the son of Bill Moyers, and Bill Moyers, actually, when we interviewed Wendell Berry here for the Berry Conference, his father was here to interview him. Very prominent man. Bill Moyers helped to start the Peace Corps and really knew every president and served under Kennedy and Johnson. And his son, William Moyers, has written a book called Broken. And he was invited to come here because it was the freshman read this year. So all the freshmen coming into school had to read Broken. And then Bill Moyers works in Minnesota, and he was asked if he would come down here, and he did, and spent 24 hours with our students. You want to talk about what the book was about?
It was basically, he started, I guess, doing drugs at a very young age to where he became an addict. And it was very emotional, not on the part of, because I don't understand being an addict, but I do understand being the person of having to watch someone deteriorate because of being addicted to drugs. Because it doesn't only destroy them, it destroys everyone and everything around them also. And that was my point of view on writing my essay, and I didn't
So there
expect-
was an essay contest
There was an essay contest.
among all the freshmen, and okay. So the first night that he came in on a Monday, it doesn't matter. He came in. He had a toothache. I know he had to go to the doctor because he had an abscessed tooth. And then he came on campus and met with the students. And it wasn't just a visit. It was actually kind of more of, he had sessions with these students because of the addiction. I mean, he asked students to join him to talk that had been affected by addictions in some way, and anybody in their family. And then that night, he spoke to the students.
Yes.
And you were here for that.
I was here for that.
And which I was here. And talk about what that address was like, and then he spoke to the public the next day.
Okay, the first one, when he spoke that evening, it was an assignment in class. So we had to come and give our views of his topics and what he had to state. And so I had come the first night, and it addressed why and how he became who he was at this point in time. And so I hate to say I was disappointed, but I was, just because he didn't address the whole entirety of it. But the second day, which was the following day, I believe he read the essays that won because he addressed not only how it affects the addicts, it affects the people. We have to watch someone deteriorate and there's nothing you can do about it. You know, and it tears you up inside.
I'm sure that book is in our library here at St. Catherine's. I am not a reader. I read that book in a couple of days. It's very intense. It's very emotional. It's really hard to believe that someone did to themselves what he did to himself and survived. The money that he must have spent on drugs, his addiction. It's very interesting because his father is a minister, and his father supported him all the time. And it's got a lot of very spiritual things in it, but it's also you realize how people with addictions become con artists.
Yes.
And there was no he just didn't seem to have any accountability for what happened when he disappeared. It's a very powerful book, very powerful. Whether there's people were here for the public speaking, I know several people from AA were here, but for any kind of addiction, it's a wonderful book.
It is.
And it was such an honor to have him on campus. So you really didn't want to come back for the second talk because you felt like you'd hurt him and you didn't want to hear it all over again.
Exactly.
But it was different. And then something else happened.
Yes, I didn't realize that I had gotten second place on the essay writing contest, and I'm sorry, they had contacted Melissa from the sheriff's department and asked her to get me down here because I was at work, and she's all, please come, and I was like, well, okay. You know,
you didn't really want to come.
No, I didn't. I was like, no. But I was like, okay. And so she's all like, well, it'll help show that the sheriff's department is part of the community, and you know, it would help too, seeing, you know, the chief of security, you know, showing that they support, you know, St. Catharine. So I said, okay. So I came with her, and I sat in the same seat, same row, and then I was kind of in my own world, and they were announcing the winners, and I heard my name, and Melissa just hit me on the leg. You won. I was like, oh. I was like, okay.
See, there's that composition. There you go. There,
So,
your contact classes also.
Oh, it paid off. Oh.
I bet Dr. Toder was so proud of you too.
Oh, he was, and he was all like, I knew about it, but I couldn't tell you. And I was like, oh, because, you know.
Can you share with us what your composition, what some of it was about?
It was about, I grew up in a really hard, I guess, life. I was moved.
Are you comfortable with talking about this?
I am now.
Okay.
I mean, I had two parents, Hispanic parents, that were, you know, became parents too early in life. And so my mother was originally from way down in Mexico, and so when she met my dad, who was an American citizen, and so she got all this freedom, so she got into drinking and drugs and partying and doing all the things that you would originally do, I guess, when you're younger. But she already had 3 children, and unfortunately, because of the drug usage and the way that they were, it was really difficult. So we were taken away, we were put in the system, moved around from foster home to the point it was terrible to where I moved out on my own. And then where I guess Moyer's book got me was when he spoke about his first wife. And I could relate to her because I ended up marrying a man who was both my parents at the same time. And it was very difficult, and when he died, you know, it took 6 years for me to stand up on my own 2 feet to realize that I deserve to be happy, and, you know, things are what they are, and you learn from them, and either have them as a crutch or you use them as a stepping stone, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go forward, and it took a while, but I'm here. And so, and I'm very
Wow.
blessed.
Well, thank you. Well, I think that's from Bill Moyers. You know what he does now. He works with the institution in Minnesota. He does public information, and one of his missions is like, you know, in the early days when we were trying to start hospice in Central Kentucky, people didn't know what that was, and there was no insurance funding for it. But you know, one thing you learn. That's why I think anybody that's really watching this program that knows someone that has an addiction or suspect it, because so many times people deny that it's possible, but it's definitely an illness. And I really was surprised at the end of Bill Moyers' book. I thought he was going to say that he was that way because of all the things that had been from his past with his relationship with his father, and you know, just, and it wasn't. I mean, it's an illness, and it's that chemical, just like with AA, and I don't know as far as gambling anonymous, but that chemical triggers a chemical in the brain, and you can't stop. It's not a matter of just doing it. And the book is so powerful with that, but also you walk away from it realizing this is an illness.
Yes.
And people that do go into treatment, if insurance could help to pay for it. Because I think he was fortunate enough that he had a father that helped to pay for his expenses, but at Hazleton it would have been quite expensive. But he works for Hazleton now. So his mission, the book was very, very powerful. It was. I know several people that read it with addictions, and for the whole family. It's a wonderful book. But what a testimony to you. And thank you for sharing that story. Thank you so much, Sally. I mean, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but thank you for sharing that.
That's okay. Since I started college and with all the writing and composition, you start to look at what got you where you are, and I wouldn't change anything, because...
How do you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been?
Exactly.
Yeah. He met Bill when he was here. William Moyers met with kids for breakfast, and everybody has a story.
They do.
And I think about 70%, you know, he gave away all his business cards, and I'm sure almost every family, almost every person has been touched in one way or another, because we have so much in this country, so much at our fingertips.
Yes.
Well, I'm so proud of you, and
Thank you.
It's nice to know more about you, and it's great for our public when you all go into the Juicer Center. Tell this girl she's pretty special. This lady.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This was a wonderful interview. Thank you for all the secrets, for all the information you shared, for who you are, and we're really glad you chose Springfield. You know,
Me too.
we're really glad, and that you chose St. Catherine's. It's wonderful. We're glad it's here for you.
I've met a lot of wonderful people that I wouldn't have picked any other place.
Do you, when you're here, even the short time you're here, does it feel like a campus life to you?
It does. I love it. And I guess because I do have that direct goal, I know what I want to do. I'm here for a purpose, and you know, because when you're still trying to figure out what you want to do, you're kind of still trying to figure, okay, should I really go to this class or should I? And I know exactly what I want to do and why I'm here, and it's just, it's wonderful.
Yeah. God's given you many gifts. It's
Yes.
great that you're using them, your talents. It's great. It's great. Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I could cry. Thank
Oh,
you.
no.
Thank you. Thank
You're very
you.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.